Hi everyone, my name is Darwin. I'm your teacher for the subject oral communication in contexts. Today's topic is about speech writing process. And on your screen, you have three words that are shown. First is speech. What is the meaning of speech? It involves, to answer the question, it involves your ability to articulate your thoughts and feelings through oral form or through communicating through your voice. What about writing? So, what is writing? It's also another way to express your thoughts, ideas through written form. So, you have to use pen and paper to do that. And the third word is process. So what is process? It involves set of things or steps to come up with or to complete a certain activity. That's why it's called process. All right, so in order to understand the speech writing process, let's take a look at each of these step that you have to undergo in order to come up with your piece. And by the way, just to let you know, the speech should be written first. Now, have you ever tried to write a piece wherein you'll somehow be asked to express it in front of the crowd or in front of your classmates? If you haven't done that, then this is the right lecture or video lecture for you. Let's take a look at the first slide. Now, everything has to, or these, I should say, speech writing should begin with the first part. And by the way, we have here the steps which you have to do in order to come up with your speech, right? So the first one is planning. Before you do or you write something, you have to do or to plan it out. So what are the things that you should do during the planning phase? First one is conducting an audience analysis. Uh, and it also comes with determining the purpose of the speech. And the third one is selecting a topic and then narrowing down a topic and gathering data. Right, so we'll talk about a little bit more about those things, but these are the parts of the planning phase. The next one is organizing. All right, this is the part wherein you somehow select a specific way of speech pattern or writing pattern. We'll talk about these. We'll have a separate lecture about this, but for now, we'll just be focusing on the planning phase. The other parts of the speech writing process is the writing itself, wherein from an idea that you have in your mind, you somehow articulated it into writing. So, what are the things that you usually do when it comes to the writing phase? First is um, you do it by creating the body of the speech. All right. So from an imagination, from a thought that are somehow kept in your mind, you have to come up with something that is visible, something that is readable, and that is why you have to put it into body. And usually in the body, you have the introduction, the body, and then the conclusion. Again, for this lecture, we'll not be tackling or diving into these part because this video, as what I've been telling you, is just about the planning phase. We'll have it probably in the second or the third part of the video. Right. And during the writing phase, we also have the preparation of the introduction, preparing introduction. And also, if there's an introduction, there's also a conclusion. So the introduction is placed in the beginning of your speech, and the conclusion is also placed at the end of your speech. Now, the last part of the writing process, speech writing process, is editing and revising. All right. So here in the during the finalizing phase, you get rid. When I say get rid, where you remove the parts or perhaps words that are unnecessary, ideas that are necessary. If it's wordy, right, you somehow remove these unnecessary words and then shorten the thought, all right, making it concise, all right, short and clear. And sometimes you also revise everything, probably revising some parts which are a bit confusing. So when it's confusing, sometimes you're having a hard time understanding it. And then once you're done with, with the editing and revising, you will finally try to rehearse it. Sometimes you do it, you rehearse speech in front of the mirror. All right, and that's one of the most effective ways on doing so, because we've learned about the verbal, what do you call that? The verbal and the non-verbal elements of speech. Right? So when you rehearse it in front of the mirror, you somehow see how you react, how you deliver it. Your it also comes with your facial expression, your gestures, and everything. All right? All right. Here, selecting. Um, so selecting a topic and choosing a relevant, engaging topic. So we'll have a separate lecture about that, just so you know. And the other one is narrowing. So I have a separate slide for these two, narrowing. And the last one is gathering data, research, facts, examples, etc. Let's move on. All right, so a while ago I've mentioned about audience analysis. Now, when we say audience analysis, you're trying to understand your audience. But the question is, what are the things that you would like to know about them? So we have number one, demographics. Now, when we say demographics, it comes with the age, all right? Your audience might be part of a younger generation or perhaps an older generation. But what about the gender? So the gender here may include, male or female, or, we also have educational background, right? They may be professionals, they may be college students, or they may be, well, students or high school students, or even elementary pupils. What about occupation, right? Hold on. So, okay. So here, an occupation, well, we have varied occupations all around the world. Some of them are teachers, some of them are engineers, and all of that, healthcare workers. So we have varied professions here in the Philippines and abroad. Of course, you have to know them, your audiences. You won't be talking, something that is not even relevant. When I say not relevant, it doesn't even it's not even beneficial to those who are listening. Okay, and the other one is cultural background. Um, well, we have, well, varied. For example, in indigenous groups here in the Philippines. Some of them are, for example, we are Bicolanos, so you would talk about, the culture of the Bicolanos. And you may also take advantage of it. So when I say take advantage of it, use their background for them to relate to what you're talking about. So what if you're talking about a food or a famous tourist spot here in Bicol? So, and the audiences are also Bicolanos. So by 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 applying or knowing the background of the audience, you'll be able to come up with a speech that is relatable to them. So when I say relatable, they may be able to understand what you're talking about clearly. All right, the other one is this one. Uh, Psychographics. Psychographics refers to the mind, right? But what about the mind? When we talk about the mind, it comes with the beliefs and the values. What are the beliefs? Perhaps the religious beliefs of the audiences. They may be Roman Catholics, they may be Christians, they may be, Muslims or whatever. So these are really important for you to know it. That also comes with the attitudes and opinions. Uh, all right. What about these attitudes and opinions, interests and motivations? So, what if you're given or you are tasked to talk about a political issue here in the Philippines, and then, well, we know that we have the pro and the anti groups existing. All right. When I say pro, they are, well, they're support they support the government, and when we say anti or oppositions, we're talking about those who, do something against the government, or argue on the things that the government has been doing towards the people. Okay, so those are the things. So if you're talking about something and you're expressing your ideas and beliefs, which is contradictory to the audience, that may lead to a kind of negative, I should say, reaction of the audience, and you don't want that to happen. Okay. Next one is the prior knowledge. All right, this one. So prior knowledge, I have here questions. First is, what does the audience already know? We're talking about the ideas that the audience already have, that might also be relevant, um, for them. Okay, so, well, if that happens, then if your audience knows something about what you're talking about, then that will be very easy for them to understand the content or the things that you're saying in front of them. So the second is, are there misconceptions to address? Okay. For example, the things that you've mentioned in your speech are not really clear, and sometimes they need to ask or clarify something. Okay. And the other one is, how much detail is appropriate. So uh, you have to get rid of some parts which are unnecessary. If you're talking too much about an idea and they're not even interested about it, so you may simply disregard that part and move on. Continue on your speech and get rid of the other parts that are unimportant or not important. Next one is, hold on. Okay. So next one is context contextual factors. Contextual factors refers to, say, the event or events that are happening while delivering the speech. That includes the occasion or event. So what if it's a birthday party, right? You wouldn't want to um, talk about a, say, traumatic issue. Okay, if it's a birthday party, you'd like to lighten the mood, and you wouldn't want them to be upset about what you're talking about, right? So, but what if it's a serious event? Okay, and if that is a serious event or occasion, um, and sometimes people would ask something about that, about, say, a serious topic, then that's the time that you can give a serious topic. But if it's not so serious, say a birthday party, a celebration, then of course you have to deliver a speech that will lighten the mood. Time and location. All right. So the time itself refers to the specific period of time. So sometimes it's early in the morning or late at night. So you also have to consider that, including the location. The location is the place. So are you delivering a speech at home or in front of the crowd? So that may also change. So if you're delivering a speech in front of the crowd, then your perhaps the words that you'll be using should also address the crowd. But if you are, say, talking or delivering a speech inside your house, then there's no need for you to assume as if you're talking to a crowd. You may simply call the audiences or the listeners by their names. So what if you're talking to your mother? What if you're talking to your relatives? What if you're talking to, to your friends? All right. So you don't want them to feel as if they are, detached or not even familiar to you. Now, the audience size, I've mentioned this already. What if you're talking to a crowd, say thousands of people? What if you're talking to 100 people? What if you're talking to 50 or less than that? So your delivery will also be different. If it's, say 50 or less, then you can be interactive. You may ask, say, allow them to respond to what you're talking about. But if it's a crowd, you may simply react based on, whether they're giving an applaud or not, whether they're becoming noisy already. So if they're becoming noisy, that means they're not interested. Okay, and also the relationship with the speaker. It's also important, as I've mentioned earlier. So what if you're talking to your relatives, say it's a reunion party, and you have with you your parents and then your relatives looking at you while delivering a speech. So um, you may also personalize that. When I say personalize, you can deliver a message which specifically uh, uh, refers to or points to a relative, your relative. Next is expectations. So we have here, let me just encircle that. Questions. Okay. All right. Now, okay. Now, these are the purposes of speech writing. When we say purpose, what is the reason why you're delivering a speech? Why do you want to say something in front of the people, right? So the first one is informative. What is informative? It means you wanted to provide facts, okay, data, or explanation to increase understanding. Now, the one that I'm doing right now is also informative because I'm giving you information on how to do something. And in this case, it's speech writing process. And I'm giving you ways on how to, come up with your speech itself. And now we're on the part we're in, we're determining your purpose. Now imagine yourself standing in front of the crowd. Now you have to ask yourself, what is your purpose? Is it to inform? Is it because they need to know something, right? Is it because you'd like to explain an idea? So if these are your purposes, then that means you're delivering an informative speech. Now, what are the examples that we have? Well, we have lecture, just like the one that I'm doing. It's just so happened that it's recorded. Reports, speeches. Okay, for example, your boss asks you to present something. Say your the success of the company. All right. Now, the other one is entertainment. All right. Now, what does that even mean? Well, one is to amuse or engage the audience. To amuse or engage the audience emotionally. So you're talking about emotions. And most of the time, if it's entertaining, then you'd like to lighten the mood. You'd like them to be happy. Now, these are, mostly given or delivered during a certain occasion, which is not less serious. Most of the time, it involves wedding toast, humorous speeches, and stories, and you'd like them to enjoy while listening at you. And the last one is persuasive. When you say persuasive, you would like to convince the audience to believe or do something. All right? You'd like them to do something. And most of the time, you'd like them to, what do you call that? act on an idea or an event. So here we have examples: campaign speeches, right? These are the examples: campaign speeches, sales pitches, and debates. All right. Okay. Have you ever engaged in a certain debate? Right. What about campaign speeches? Have you ever tried to run in a certain government position? Um, Whatever. So some of you might have run into or tried to run in an election as barangay or SK Kagawad or SK chairman. All right. So and sometimes you'd like to persuade them, right? You'd like them to vote you. And in your speech, sometimes you give, things that you've done already, and by letting them know that you have the potential to be a good leader, you're already persuading them to vote you, and that is to convince the audience or to believe that you are a good leader, right? Let's see. Now, we're now in the part we're in. I'm gonna teach you, or yeah, inform you about how to choose and narrow a topic. And sometimes this is the most difficult part when it comes to delivering a speech. What are the things that you're gonna tell to the audience? And before anything else, you have to ask yourself these questions, such as your interests. For example, what are you passionate about? What are the things that you'd like to talk about, which you're familiar with? All right. So if you are into sports, for example, you may talk about sports. If you are into, say, films, and you've recently watched your favorite film, that may be, something that you'd like to share with people. Okay. Um, all right. And what about the knowledge? So, what do you know well or want to research? What do you know well? So, are you familiar with the topic, say, the films? Are you an avid fan of Netflix? Do you often watch movies in Netflix? And what about the audience relevance? So, what will engage or benefit your audience? What will engage or benefit your audience? So, why do you think are they going to learn? So, not to learn, but rather to listen at you. So, will it be interesting to them? Those are the questions. And occasion appropriateness. What fits the event or setting? Okay. So the setting or the event is also should be appropriate. That means if you're sharing an idea which is interesting, and that fits to the occasion, then that will be an effective speech. All right.